coming up on the sports side.
We weren't dominant today. We won. Sometimes it don't go like you desire it to go, but we got the W. I'm proud of that.
He ain't SWAC. I'm SWAC. He ain't SWAC.
I am a whole lot of things that a lot of folks would like to be. Oh, Ryan, preach. You better preach. I'm going on there.
You're listening to the Sports Side, a part of the Sports Side Media Network.
Welcome into another episode of the Sports Hype right here on the Sports Hype Media Network, your home for the latest sports news updates. I'm Walter Thompson. Man, what a weekend in college football and of the SWAC variety. Jackson State, Alabama State, homecoming for the Hornets, and it was billed as a big one. These two teams, obviously there's no love lost between the two. They have history, and they let that be known this past weekend. Jackson State being scheduled for Alabama State's homecoming was a slap in the face. And in the weeks leading up to this matchup, Coach Prime reiterated he was excited about traveling to Montgomery to be their homecoming matchup.
I don't make the schedule. I wish I did. I love the fact that we're going to play Alabama State for their homecoming. I love it. Quote me. I love it.
Obviously, Coach Sanders took that as disrespect, and a lot of teams would. A lot of teams would take that as disrespect. Most times when you schedule a team for homecoming, it's a team that you obviously think you have a really good chance of winning. Jackson State is a very good football team. They are the number 8 ranked team in the country. Nobody in their right mind schedules the number 8th ranked team in the country for homecoming. Make no bones about it. This was nothing but a money game for Alabama State. A money game that Jackson State's not being paid for. And it was smart, on that end for Alabama State to schedule Jackson State if they wanted to sell out the homecoming, in which they did. But obviously they thought they had a chance of winning this football game. And the game was close. It was a close football game. Look, everybody, I am one of those people who said that Jackson State was going to come in there and they were going to dominate. I said they were going to put about 60 on the board. They didn't. 26-12 Jackson State. This thing was 10-6 going into halftime. Jackson State up by 4 points. And this game was closer than a lot of people thought it would have been. And obviously Eddie Robertson Jr., he had his guys ready to go and had them ready to play this football game. But what happened after the game? After the clock hit quadruple zeros and the two coaches walked to the center of the field for the traditional handshake, post-game handshake, and Eddie Robertson, all of his frustrations came out in that moment in a gesture that we in the Black community, we shake hands, and a lot of times as brothers, we embrace each other. And Prime with the embracing, and Eddie Robertson Jr. wasn't having it, and this is what he had to say in the post.
I thought it was a lot of disrespect the whole week, and so you're not going to be disrespectful the whole week in the media. We didn't talk in the pregame. I was out there the whole time at the 50-yard line. He walked through our whole our whole huddle on our end zone and came a long way around to get to his side of the field in the pregame. Thought that wasn't classy at all. And so in the postgame, I'm not about to give you the Obama bro-up.
Of course, there's always two sides to every story, and somewhere in between you'll get the truth. But this was Coach Prime's response to Eddie Robertson's comments of what happened there in midfield.
My exact words was, hey, man, you had them ready to play. Good game. And shook hands and tried to embrace, and he pushed off.
This is the problem when you schedule a team like Jackson State for your homecoming. You don't get the end result that you initially set out to get, which is a victory. And then when you lose, all of those emotions come out. It being homecoming, a loss stings a lot more when you lose on homecoming. That's why you don't schedule a team as such as Jackson State for this type of game, because emotions run high. It's just not a good deal. Now, was selling out the homecoming game and all the revenue that was generated, was it worth it? Yeah, it probably was worth it. But that end result does not feel good. So, yeah, Coach was in his feelings, and Prime was just being Prime. He's always been that way. And he talked about his tradition of walking around the stadium before every game. And he's been doing it ever since his days in the NFL.
All of the people that's been with me for years, and even playing in the NFL, I always come out the locker room and run around the field. That's my tradition. That's what I do. That wasn't nothing personal to invoke any riotous act against them. That's not who I am. That's not what I stand for. That's not what I'm about.
If anybody's followed Deion throughout his professional football playing career and now his collegiate coaching career, you know this is something that he does. This is something that he does, and most of the time he's actually praying and quoting Bible verses while he's walking the perimeter of the field. This is something that he does. This is documented. It's on film. It's highly documented that this is what he does. This is no surprise. Look, and even if this was something that Prime didn't do normally, it doesn't excuse the fact that the Alabama State players were so disrespectful to a legend, an icon, a head coach, a man that is trying to promote change within the SWAC, within HBCU football. The profanity-laced comments that were directed towards him as he was walking around them, not through them, but around them, behind them, so to speak, to get to the sideline. The profanity that these young men used towards him was so disrespectful, and Alabama State should be ashamed. Alabama State head coach should be ashamed. The whole university should be ashamed that players would speak to a head coach of an opposing team in such manner when it wasn't warranted, was not warranted whatsoever. And it is clear that this football team took the attitude and the direction of their head coach, Eddie Robertson Jr. Him going in the press conference and doubling down on his actions, he had time to calm down, to realize what he had did was wrong. He could have easily apologized and moved on, and it wouldn't be a big deal, and we wouldn't be talking about it in the manner in which we are talking about it right now. But we are. And look, Coach Prime says he's not looking for an apology from Coach Eddie Robertson Jr.
I listen very carefully when people are upset, because usually what they say, they mean it. I'm not one to come back the next day and gonna pick up the phone and you're gonna apologize and we straight. No, not whatsoever. You meant that mess.
I mean, you put the pieces of the puzzle together. Everything is on film. We know Prime travels with a film crew everywhere he goes. He's always mic'd up. So you hear everything that those players said to him. There was an incident with a young lady, one of the trainers on the sidelines for Jackson State, who was called out of her name by an Alabama State player. An undisciplined football team. Do you look at the differences between the two programs? Alabama State, they're off the rails. They were off the rails the entire game. Jackson State, you got to give Deion and that coaching staff a lot of credit for keeping that team calm. They didn't react, as Prime didn't react to the players saying certain things to him. You know, this thing is much bigger than football. It's much bigger than X's and O's and going out and winning football games. Prime is giving everybody the blueprint. He's building young men, and he's showing them how to be respectful, how to treat people. And clearly, that's not what's going on in Alabama State. I highly doubt you will see a JSU player act in the manner in which those Alabama State players acted towards him. They respect Deion Sanders too much to embarrass him, to disrespect him by disrespecting someone else. It ain't going to happen. And that's what Eddie Robertson's got to work on. Forget about the X's and O's for a second. How are these young men going to act when they get out in the real world? How are they going to act? That's the big thing. And obviously, going out and calling an authority figure out of his name when he did nothing to them, that's not a good look. And as the head coach, you got to take responsibility for that. It starts at the top. It starts with Eddie Robertson Jr., and it kept going. It kept going. Eddie Robertson, like I said, again, continued to double down in his press conference, obviously very emotional. We know everything that Prime is doing for the SWAC. We know that he is doing a lot for HBCU football as a whole. But according to Eddie Robertson Jr., Prime doesn't belong in the SWAC.
I'm going to always be respectful and respect the game. You know, you got the great guys, W.C. Gordons, Eddie G. Robinsons, those guys, Reno Castle. I'm living on the shoulders of the SWAC. He ain't SWAC. You know, I'm SWAC. He ain't SWAC. So he's in the conference doing a great job. Can't knock that. Got a great team.
And you know, Coach Prime wasn't going to let this one go. He had a response to this one, and it was a good one.
One of the comments that kind of disturbed me out of all the comments is, I'm not SWAC. Who is? I got time today. Who is SWAC? If I ain't SWAC, who is SWAC? If I ain't SWAC, who is SWAC? If I ain't SWAC, who is SWAC? Baby, who is? I wake up motivated. I wake up trying to bless somebody, inspire somebody, encourage somebody, help somebody, motivate somebody, get somebody to the next level. And somebody had the audacity to sit up here and say what I ain't. Well, baby, I know what I am. And I am a whole lot of things that a lot of folks would like to be. Oh, Prime, preach.
Only Coach Prime could respond like that. And look, I'll say this and I'll move on. Prime is the SWAC right now. No disrespect to any of the other coaches in the SWAC. No disrespect to any of them. No disrespect to any HBCU coaches out there. But Coach Prime is doing more than they could ever do. And it's not their fault. They just don't have the profile. They don't have the profile. He has the ability to do things that they can only dream of doing right now. And it's best that they allow him to do what he's doing. Because at the end of the day, everybody wins. I'm not talking about football. I'm not talking about the X's and O's, wins and losses. I'm talking about the SWAC, the MEAC, Tennessee State, Hampton, North Carolina A&T, all of these HBCU schools. And there's a whole lot more. But if you let Prime do what he's doing and keep your ego in check, he's going to take the SWAC, he's going to take the MEAC, he's going to take all these other HBCU conferences and the HBCU schools, he's going to take them to another level. He's already got NFL scouts coming out. Heck, he got the NFL to start a HBCU combine. This man is building. He's building, and you got to allow him to do it. Now, on Saturdays, when you guys are in between the white lines playing ball, that's cool. But like I said, once the clock hit quadruple zeros, you got to go shake his hand. He's the godfather at this point. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but he is. He's the Don. You got to give him his respect. And the players, the coaches, everybody. You got to respect what this man is doing. And he could be very selfish. This could all be about JSU. And he could be worrying about JSU and only JSU. But he's not. He's trying to take everybody else along for the ride. Whether you're in the SWAC, the MEAC, you're a Division II team, CIAA, whatever. It doesn't matter. He's trying to take everybody else along for the ride. That's what I call unselfish. That's what I call a man on a mission. And Prime is doing just that. And like I said, you got to bow down and kiss the ring. He's the godfather. But hate and jealousy is going to keep a lot of people from getting the blessing that he's trying to bestow upon them. We're going to leave it there for today with the sports hype. Look, we'll break down this game a little bit later in the week, talk about the X's and O's, because Deion Sanders had a pretty good game. Jackson State had a pretty good game as a team overall. But again, this whole ordeal, this whole situation post-game overshadowed the performance of the kids on the field. But we'll break down the rest of the X's and O's of this game later on in the week. Coming up on Monday night, we got a big one for the Las Vegas Raiders and the Kansas City Chiefs division rival game. This is a must-win for the Las Vegas Raiders, but we'll take a look at the results of that one on the next episode of the Sports Hype, right here on the Sports Hype Media Network. Until next time, I'm Walter Thompson.
You're listening to the Sports Hype, a part of the Sports Hype Media Network.